We'll start.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the Indian Space Association's SpaceTech Expert Talk webinar series. My name is Ashish, and I'll be your moderator for today's session on regulatory challenges and opportunities in satellite communications. We are in for an enlightening 90 minutes, and we are fortunate to have with us Shri Arun Agarwal, DDG Satellite, Department of Telecommunications. Shri Arun Agarwal holds a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Electronics Engineering and an MBA. He is an Indian Telecom Service Officer of 1990 batch and has about 32 years of experience in various areas of telecom, such as planning, installation, standardization, rural telecom, USOF schemes, etc. Presently, he is working as Deputy Director General Satellite in Department of Telecommunications headquarters. He is also a member of the DOT's Committee on Circular Economy in Telecom Sector and various committees of Bureau of Indian Standards. Recently, Mr. Agarwal has been instrumental in formulating guidelines for the implementation of the Indian space policy in the telecom sector. As we progress through the session, I encourage all attendees to use the Q&A function for any questions. We'll address as many as possible. I'd like our Director General, Shri Anil Kumar Bhatt, to say a few words. So,
good morning to everyone. On behalf of the Indian Space Association, I warmly welcome you to this fourth Space Tech Expert Talk webinar. Today, we'll focus on regulatory challenges is rapidly changing, presenting both exciting opportunities and complex challenges for industry players, policymakers, and innovators alike. As in India, we set our sights on becoming a digitally empowered nation and the third largest economy in the world. Satellite communication will be and is a vital cog in helping us in achieving this milestone. Specifically, SATCOMs will play a crucial role in the areas such as providing connectivity to remote areas, enhancing our disaster management capabilities,
Understand, yeah.
and
Understand.
enabling
No problem. No, just a call to say hi, how the things going on and all, like, just to understand the things and all. Everything fine, right?
Recently, policy developments and changes like the Indian Space Policy 2023, the Telecom Act 2023, and norms and guidelines and procedures for implementation of the Indian Space Policy 2024 in respect of authorization of space activities and initiatives by the government have opened new avenues for the private sector participation, marking a significant shift in our space ecosystem. Today, our distinguished speaker, Shri Arun Agarwal ji, will tell you about the current regulatory environment. He'll shed light on the challenges faced by private companies entering this dynamic sector. And we will also discuss the potential opportunities created by the recent policy changes, and he will offer insights into the future outlook for satellite communication regulations. The webinar today will be instrumental in understanding how we can strike a delicate balance between security and compliance. We must create a framework that protects national interests while also attracts investments and fosters technological advancements. I would encourage all participants to totally engage through the Q&A, which we will have after the speaker's address. Over to you, Shri Arun Agarwal ji.
So, you have controls now.
Namaskar to all webinar participants. I am very much thankful to Indian Space Association for giving me an opportunity to speak at this forum. And the subject of satellite communication now is very important because it is considered to be an emerging technology which has potential to change the landscape of telecommunication provisioning, especially to the rural and far-off areas. So I will discuss the subject matter that has been assigned to me, and I will also like to interact with you on the issues that you may like to discuss. So first, very brief on satellite communication technologies, means how we have been working. So as we all know that basically geostationary satellites have been used in the world till a few years back, and even in India. Even now we are using geostationary satellites for all satellite communication purposes. And now GSO, non-geo stationary satellites are coming, and in India also they are likely to provide services shortly. However, as of now, we are having services from geostationary satellites only because they have a very wide footprint covering 1/3 of the globe. Now, ITU, we all know, is the nodal agencies for coordinating the orbital resources and spectrum resources, and plays a very important role in satellite communication. When we talk about the various LEO, MEO, and GEO satellites, we find that now the technology is evolving, and we are having new generation of LEO system, which can provide low latency as well as high throughput. Geo has got its own properties, its own merits. It can provide high throughput, but then latency is an issue. Whereas in LEO, high level of technological coordination and then synchronization is required. Now, this slide shows an overview of the orbits of various satellites, LEO, MEO, and GEO, and their comparison in terms of latency, lifespan. As we see, GEO has got a very long lifespan, whereas LEO has got a shorter lifespan, and the various frequency ranges that we typically use in satellite, like C-band, Ku band, Ka band. Now the trend is for Ku and Ka band, whereas L and S bands we are using for primarily for mobile satellite service. Yeah. So this is just a summary of the characteristics of LEO, MEO, and GEO satellites. So I was just showing you to have a feel of the various different satellite orbits and how they are providing services. So LEO has got its own merits, but its lifespan is short. GEO has got merits with a longer lifespan, and then so it is basically a trade-off between the different characteristics of satellite, and then the cost, speed, and all these things. So different technologies, I believe, will coexist in the future also, and every technology and every even upcoming technology will have a space in the satellite communication. So this slide also shows LEO MEO constellation, like they provide both fixed wireless backhaul service, ongoing development for mobile, high throughput satellites, which are like the geo high throughput satellites. They are already being used in India and world over. And they are providing fixed wireless, mobile, and backhaul services. And then the upcoming and the new and upcoming 5G NT and non-terrestrial network-based communication, 3GPP, R17, R18. And then they are also talking about the integration of both mobile services and SATCOM services. In India right now, the constellations which are likely to provide services as they have applied to Department of Telecommunication, and licenses have also been issued to OneWeb and Geo SCL. So they have got their own LU and MU constellation, like OneWeb has got about 636 LEO satellites at about 1200 kilometers, and they are providing services in KU band to the users. This OneWeb has got 11 MU satellites at 8,000 kilometers, and 6 satellites are already in orbit. They are planning service in K band, whereas Starlink has showed its intention to provide services in K band, and they already have about 4,400 satellites in orbit at about around 550 kilometers. So license has not yet been issued to Starlink. So right now we have got 2 NGSO licenses, OneWeb and O3B Power, that is OneWeb and GeoSC, and these are the 2 companies. In India, when we talk about the SATCOM scenario in India, it started in early 90s with INSAT 1A and INSAT 1B satellites. And now Department of Telecom monitors 18 indigenous satellites. They have been launched by Department of Space, and 20 foreign satellites. And these satellites are providing services for both telecom as well as broadcasting purposes. And DOT is the sole central agency for licensing, authorization, and permission for providing SATCOM-based services in India. So now we will discuss recent reforms in telecom sector. So during the last 3-4 years, we have seen a slew of reforms in telecom as well as satellite sector. So firstly, we will discuss the reforms in telecom sector. So as we all are aware, the Telecom Act 2023, and it was published December last year. And this act amends and consolidates the law relating to development, expansion, and operation of telecom services and network assignment of spectrum and for matters connected therewith. And this simplifies the regulatory framework. So its different sections are being notified gradually. Already a number of sections have been notified. However, the sections relating to authorization are yet to be notified, and they will be notified shortly. So for making the rules, the exercise is already on, and TRAI has been approached for giving their recommendations for providing telecom services as well as for network, as well as for establishing, operating, maintaining, and expanding telecom network. And TRAI has also been approached last month for spectrum assignment for NGSO, GSO satellite-based communication services. TRAI has also issued one consultation paper in July for regarding framework for service authorization to be granted under the Telecom Act 2023, and for other aspects like spectrum and for network. I think their consultation paper will be released in due course shortly. So after the receipt of the TRAI recommendations, DOT will work on them, and necessary rules will be issued. So we all know that 100% FDI in SATCOM through automatic route is permitted, subject to certain conditions, And in October 2022, we had major reforms for ease of doing business, like this NOCC or SMC Satellite Monitoring Center charges of rupees 1 lakh per transponder. That has been waived. Now mandatory performance verification testing charges are also waived off. Then this is basically self-declaration basis. The various fees, licensing fees and other fees, they have been rationalized and reduced. Then instead of multiple level scrutiny, now there is a single scrutiny. Per site clearance of wireless operating license for user side reset is also removed. And the DOT has also published guidelines for the support of the service provider. Now the data speed restrictions for different types of satellite-based telecom network has also been removed. And this eSIM that is also permitted for commercial VSAT and captive VSAT. Now, as I mentioned, that 2 licenses have been or have already been issued for GMTCS service. One license to OneWeb and then another license to GeoSCR. Then 2 more applications are in pipeline. One is from Starlink and another from Amazon Kuiper. Then some other initiatives are under consideration, like the SESG Satellite Earth Station Gateway. So TRI has already given its recommendation for sharing the satellite Earth Station because it is quite capital intensive to establish an SESG. However, DOT has done its own due diligence, but with the coming of the new act, now TRI has again been approached to work on it. Then there are some more initiatives, like for GSM mobile phones. Like there are developments in GSM mobile phones, and they can directly interact with the satellite also. This capability has also been developed. So as per the current guidelines, satellite communication service providers can only provide services to satellite handsets only. So the department and TRI both are also working on this issue, and this issue also figured in the TRI consultation paper also of the last month. Then Indian space policy, it was released last year in April, and it has opened up the space sector, and DOT is also aligning the relevant rules and regulations reflecting the developments as given in the Indian space policy. So the procedure and the guidelines will also be aligned. We should are already under alignment with the space policy. Now we will discuss what are the recent reforms in the space sectors. So as we all are aware, the Indian space policy of 2023, and it seeks to pursue a holistic approach by encouraging and promoting greater private sector participation in the entire value chain of the space economy, especially in the SATCOM sector. So now there is emphasis on stable and predictable regulatory framework and Indian consumers. So now they can procure the services, any space based activity services from both public as well as private sector. So as regards the SATCOM, so they can offer NGs, non-government enterprises, they can offer national and international space-based communication services through cell phone or procured or leased communication satellites. And then they can use Indian orbital resources as well as non-Indian orbital resources to provide such services in India. And one of the important things is that now they can provide services outside India also. Then there are other reforms like establish and operate ground facility for space objects operation like telemetry, tracking and command, earth station and satellite control center. So earlier these were the integrated with the satellite operators, and now this is also has been considered as a separate service. Then new ITU filing through the WPC DOT to acquire orbital resources. And then these private entities are also free to make ITU filings through non-Indian administrations also. Then develop and commercialize technologies and application for enhancing and augmenting satellite navigation, communication, and remote sensing. So this is also a very important aspect. Then in space, which was created for promoting and regulating activities, and this is the nodal agency, as we all know, for promoting the space sector, especially the NGs. And they are also coordinating with other government departments. So as regards SATCOM especially, it authorizes the use of space objects for communication broadcasting from Indian territory in coordination with DOT as well as MIT. So the use of authorized space objects for telecom is still to be governed by DOT and for broadcasting by MIT. ISpA has also issued its norms, guidelines, and procedure documents in May 2024, and it provides a holistic framework for providing various space-based activities. So, as regards SATCOM, ISpA has been authorized for these two space-based communication activities, among other services, like the first is TTNC, telemetry, tracking, and command earth station, and then establishment and operation of satellite SCC or satellite data reception station. So many other activities are also mentioned in the space policy and this NGP, but these two are more relevant to DOT. So I have mentioned only these two. ISpA also facilitates and incentivizes NGs for acquiring new orbital resources, and then also that brings operation of their space objects that are using non-Indian orbital resources under a coordinated and registered Indian ITU file. And then it is also mandated to judiciously balance the interest of government entities and NGs in ITU file. Then FDI in space has also been liberalized, so 100% in manufacturing essential satellite components, and significant allowance for satellite manufacturing and launch vehicle operations are there. And now foreign companies are welcome to invest in India and collaborate with India space sector, so that India can become a hub for providing SATCOM services. Our honorable minister has also a vision that India should lead the world, and then we should make it a global hub for providing SATCOM services. And we all know that, and we believe that we can do it after working in sync. That is the government, the private sector, and international organizations, and all, if we work in sync, that we can achieve this result. Now, I will briefly discuss the DOT's satellite-based telecom services regulatory framework. So, as of now, though the new Telecom Act has been published. However, still the SATCOM sector is regulated by the Indian Telegraph Act 1885 as the relevant clauses related to authorization are yet to be notified. So, central government has the exclusive privilege of establishing, maintaining, and working telegraph in the country. The authorization or the license, as well as the spectrum, is issued by the department, and based on that, the SATCOM-based services are provided. So, a major reforms was the unified licensing regime, which came in 2030, and it was based on the National Telecom Policy 2012 that talk of one nation, one license. So one of the main features was the delinking the allocation of spectrum from the license. And then we had the Saral Sanchar portal, which made the work online and faceless. And subsequently in 2022, two new chapters have been added to UL, namely machine-to-machine services and audio conferencing. So in DOT, we have different divisions which are involved in licensing and like access service, carrier service, data service, and satellite services. So SATCOM services are dealt with by the satellite division, which is the nodal for promoting SATCOM sector also in India, as well as for all nodal for policy. So right now, the following licenses or the permissions or authorization are being issued by the department. We all know about them. And then satellite services for NLD authorization can also be used. And for any other license also, the UL license has provision that satellite as a technology can be used for providing services under other licenses also. So this is the status of licenses provided so far by the DOT and the total number of VSATs also. So and only BSNL is providing satellite mobile services under the sui generis license in collaboration with Inmarsat. So there are the broad guidelines. This slides provides a snapshot of the broad guidelines that the company must be an Indian company registered under the Indian Companies Act, and the license is provided for 20 years, and it may be renewed for another 10 years. Then there are some riders about the nationality of the top management and the security clearance or security vetting from HAs, MHAs also required. A commercial research CUG is to provide services within a CUG sites which are scattered across India. It is for data connectivity and by taking ISP license. Now internet services are also provided. And with the recent reforms in 2022, the aggregate traffic from M2M IoT devices can also be routed through the VSAT. So VSAT here we can use the satellite VSAT for backhauling. And then now we are aware that eSIM, that mobile user terminal stations on moving platform are also permitted subject to the relevant eSIM standards. Then there is a provision of captive VSAT also, which are established and set up by the organization that want to avail these services. So this has got no connectivity to the PSTN, and this is for some sort of intranet and for data connectivity. So mostly government departments and organizations are using this service, though private organizations can also avail of this service and authorize. So the license fee structure is mentioned in this guideline. So after 2022, there has been major downsizing and rationalization of the DOT license fee. So it mentions all these things. And in addition to it, spectrum charges are also required. So for example, for commercial, we said it is 4% of AGR mostly, though it depends on the data. But now we are using high data, so we can say that practically it is 4%. For other services like for captive, it is based on formula. For GMPCS, TRI has been approached for giving their recommendation, and for BSNL mobile SATCOM mobile service, it is 1% of AGR. So now with the coming of the NGSO, last month on 11th of July, TRAI has been approached for providing their recommendations on NGSO, FSS as well as MSS, and also this GSO, Geo Satellite Orbit Satellites for mobile services. And while providing their recommendations, TRI has been requested to take a holistic view of the telecom sector. Then for all commercial services, apart from, means excluding captive services, there are rollout obligations, so that there should not be unnecessary blocking of the resources. So the licensee should roll out the network by installing and commissioning this earth station within 12 months from the date of frequency allocation or assignment by the WPC. And then the licensee should approach WC for frequency assignment within 1 month of the date of frequency of transported bandwidth allocation by Department of Space. So now there is change. Now Department of Space now it is open, so they can take bandwidth from any SATCOM operator. So there are also other conditions, and then some kind of LD charges are also applicable if services are not rolled out within the stipulated time frame. Then for DOT has got its SATCOM monitoring center and SMC, which was earlier known as NOCC. So for having a good quality of service and for an orderly evolution and development of SATCOM services, it is imperative that there should not be any interference. So one of the primary responsibilities of SMC is mitigation of radio frequency interference for satellite-based communication, and it coordinates with different satellite administration agencies for resolution of interference problem. And then the other important responsibilities include frequency carrier plan and link budget approvals, then issuing uplink permission and other miscellaneous things. And they also advise government on various communication matters also. Now, what are the opportunities that have been created by the recent policy changes, and what is the future outlook? So we discuss this segment. So as per the decadal vision, which was released by the ISpA, Department of Space, the vision is that India should emerge as a dominant space power, which accelerates India's growth through space applications on Earth, and then strengthens capability in space, creates socio-economic benefits and capabilities for growth. And the mission of the government of India is to realize 44 billion market potential in space for India, including $11 billion in exports and to create an ecosystem where private, public, and startup collaborate in whole of nation approach. So that is the vision and the mission, and the enablers are the all stakeholders, DOS, ISRO, in space, NSIL, and then NGs, and for telecom services, BOT for broadcasting services, it is MIB for other services, the relevant government departments and agencies. So as of now, we have around 6.44 lakh villages as per the census, and out of them about 6.20 lakh are covered with mobile services. So 96.3% villages are covered, and about 24,000 villages are yet to be covered, and DOT has already taken action through saturation project and other USOF project, and private sector is also working in parallel to cover all these villages shortly. So there is a big role of SATCOM for covering these villages, as well as to provide alternate media for these villages, because in many far-flung and remote villages, there may be a need to have two media, one from the normal terrestrial as well as from the satellite host. Because once in far-flung areas, the telecom services get disrupted due to breakdown or due to malfunction, then it may take a long time to reach them. And in the intervening period, the alternative technology may play its rightful role. Then when we come to the space industry, the present size is about 8.4 billion, and out of it, about half, that is 4.9 billion, is contributed by the SATCOM services. And as per the decadal vision, it is expected to grow to $14.8 billion by 2033. So we see that as of now, SATCOM is about 50% of the space economy, and by 2033, the vision is that it should still be the dominant segment, and it will occupy about 1/3 of the space economy market. Now, let us have a look at the present state of SATCOM under the telecom services. So, like when we talk about the gross revenue, as per the TRAI latest report, telecom sector has the gross revenue of 3.36 lakh crore, and SATCOM services has got 526 crore. So share of SATCOM services is about 0.16% in the total telecom revenue. And when we talk about the internet subscribers, we see that out of total 95.44 crore number of subscribers, the VSAT services are through 2.53 lakh VSATs. So it is about 0.03%. So we see that there is a huge potential to expand the services for the SATCOM services, because right now it forms a small chunk of the total telecom sector in terms of both revenue as well as the subscription. Now, still we see that SATCOM services form about 50% of the space economy market for India. Now, when we look at the global scenario, for example, in the USA, they have about 65 lakh subscribers, SATCOM subscribers, whereas in India, it is 2.53 lakh. That is, US has got 26 times more subscribers, whereas India has got total 120 crore telecom subscribers, and it is only 47 crore in USA. That is, India has 2.5 times more subscribers than that of USA. So on the one hand, we see that the number of telecom subscriber is 2.5 times in India as compared to USA. But on the other hand, we find that as far as the SATCOM is concerned, USA has got 26 times more subscribers. So as India becomes a part of the global economy and our space sector has been now opened up. So I hope that SATCOM services have got a very bright future, and there is a room for the manifold growth in the future. So as per another report that was released by ISpA in October 2023, export opportunities for Indian downstream space tech, the SATCOM for broadband connectivity in remote area has a potential of about $263 million by 2022. So this is as per the ISPA report. But I believe that when we look at the global scenario, as I have just discussed, the SATCOM services in India may have even higher potential to grow, provided the right mix of all the factors and aspects is there. And the government, I think, has already liberalized from both the Department of Space as well as Telecom. And with the coming of the new Telecom Act, now TRI is already seized of the matter. And they have mentioned in their consultation paper also about aligning of the DOT rules and regulation in line with the space policy. So now this is the right time that space sector friendly. I think there may be more such measures which may further enable SATCOM-based services in India. Now, this slide shows a comparison, means how in India the mobile services have evolved over the last 30 years. Like since 1995, when privatization of services started and mobile licenses were issued, we see that till 2005, the fixed the landline services were dominant, and fixed 56.95 million subscribers were of fixed landline services, where mobile services were 40.90 or 40.92. But after that, the mobile services have surpassed the fixed services. And now we see that in 2022, the wireline services is a very minuscule percentage of the wireless services. So I just want to show why, because there was a time when nobody believed that mobile services, about 25 years back, nobody believed that mobile services would ever overtake the fixed line, because fixed line were supposed to be for the normal people, whereas mobile services were considered to be a privileged service of the elite. But over the time, with the changes in the tariff structure and technology and the mass deployment, now we see that almost anybody can use the mobile services. So the landscape has totally changed. So so in case of SATCOM services also, we may see that whether this type of revolution may ever happen. So another slide, this shows the total data usage. Like in 2023-24, as per the TRI published report, the total volume of data usage wise, it was 1.95 lakh petabyte. Now, this comes to just, I have taken an average just for very this is just an approximation, and for you can say it is a crude estimation. So we can say that mobile wireless data usage per second during the last year was 49,410 Gbps from the mobile. Whereas as per TRI, average wireless data usage per data user per month was 19.3 gigabyte. So now we know that presently the availability of satellite bandwidth capacity is not much. It is a constraint, and as per a report in India through foreign as well as Indian satellite, it's about 58 Gbps, and new satellites and are to be launched like GSAT 20, which perhaps will be launched shortly. So it has got a capacity of 48 Gbps. And other private sector satellites and NGSO satellites will be there. So we will have much more satellite bandwidth capacity. But as of now, we see that whereas the per second mobile data usage is of the order of 50,000 Gbps, in case of satellite, the capacity available is only 50 Gbps, around 50 Gbps as of now. So this shows that when we have a holistic view, as in comparison with mobile telecom as well as the worldwide trend in SATCOM, there is a very huge potential and need for augmenting satellite bandwidth capacity, and SATCOM segment, I believe, has a very bright future. So now the question is, just I'm thinking aloud that whether SATCOM mobile phone service would ever overtake, or rather I should say SATCOM telecom services would ever overtake terrestrial mobile telephones or remain to complement it. So this is just crystal glazing. Nobody knows. Given if we go by the example of mobile services, we believe that future is unpredictable and nobody knows as to which technology will prevail, because SATCOM technology has got its own plus points. Like we are providing mobile services through about 27 base stations, whereas SATCOM services may be provided through a few thousand satellites. So every technology has got its plus and minus points, and then when we come to the bandwidth availability and the frequency sharing, all these issues are there. The cost of service, but then cost of service depends on so many things, and the mass deployment make any service very cost effective, whether it is white goods, consumer goods, like maybe like fridge, TV or car, which were in the 80s and 90s, which were available only with a very higher strata of the society, and now they are available with even the deprived sections of the society. So I have a feeling that any technology may take over and may have the potential to become dominant, provided that the right conditions are available and the industry is also working on the right parameter. Then I mentioned that Indian space policy 2023 promotes NGs in a big way, and then all services, national and international, can be provided through them and through government bodies also. So as our minister, honorable minister, has mentioned that India should be made a hub for providing SATCOM services. But as of now, the SATCOM license that is issued by DOT is for providing services in India. So we have TRI is already working on this issue, and DOT has also constituted a committee to deliberate on it and to identify the various other issues that may be required to be tied and also to be in sync for providing international services. So after receipt of the TRAI recommendations and in the new licensing and authorization framework, we will have provision of such services so that we can realize this vision. Now, another service that has been mentioned in the space policy and NGP's ground station as a service. So this offers satellite operators and other stakeholders the opportunity to access ground station services on a pay-per-use. So they are not required to set up their own ground station for monitoring their satellites. And this will save their upfront investment in infrastructure and ongoing maintenance. And though this service is not presently listed under the extent DOT licensing authorization framework. So as of now, DOT has not issued any authorization, and we have sought TRAI recommendations on terms and conditions, including fee and charges, as per the provisions of the new Telecom Act for authorization to establish, operate, maintain, or expand telecom network, including ground station as a service. So after receipt of the TRAI recommendation, TRAI DOT will come out with its framework, and then such services may be authorized also. So under GSAS, we have got satellite control center, and then telemetry tracking and command and mission control. These are the two activities there. And then remote sensing data reception stations are also established. And then ground station for supporting space situation awareness. That is for space sustainability to avoid collision. And then communication satellite ground station for RF and interference monitoring, apart from SATCOM and broadcasting. So these are other activities that are also envisaged by ISpA under the ground station as a service. So Mission Control Center is basically processing equipment associated with generation of telecommand and processing the telemetry from a space object. Satellite Control Center means the satellite control facility for monitoring and control of the satellites, and it shall comprise TTNC and associated processing equipment. And then TTNC is basically for receiving telemetry tracking command of a space object and also to send. Then we discuss supplemental coverage service from space or SCS. So this is basically a collaboration between satellite operator and terrestrial service provider, and it enables ubiquitous connectivity directly to consumer handset using spectrum, which was previously allocated only to terrestrial service. And this would enable expanded coverage to a terrestrial licensees subscriber. So in remote and unserved areas where that telecom service provider does not have coverage, the consumer will be benefited, and through satellite, by using the same handset, it can avail of the services. So as per the recent trend, satellite-based operators, they are working with cellular service providers to provide SCS. And right now, as per my information, trials are in progress. So what is the approach to SCS? Space-based cellular broadband network. So it can be accessed by normal smartphones with provision of receiving satellite signals. So it can provide connectivity to 4G, 5G speeds everywhere. So the idea is that ordinary mobile phones will be connected to a space-based cellular broadband satellite network. And then for this purpose, satellites are to be built are planned to be built and also underway, or the process is underway, that they are built with flat phased array technology. So hundreds of square feet array this is the size of the satellite antenna, and thousands of antenna are designed to work together to communicate with phones on the ground. And the internet will be delivered through the satellites, and which have got very large communication array antennas to beam cellular data to unmodified phones. So all these things are practically under planning and under trial stage, and download speeds, say up to 10 Mbps, is expected. So it has got its own use, especially for emergency communication, disaster recovery. So during earthquake or during the trekking or in remote area, if a person is lost or loses its way, then they can be tracked, and then they can be rescued. And then also for continuity in connection, then for greenfield coverage also in remote areas, for white spot reduction, and for Internet of Things, connecting sensors, other things, and for roaming between terrestrial and satellite network. So FCC has already come out with its rules and single network future supplemental coverage from space. So in April this year, it has come out. So it authorizes bidirectional secondary mobile satellite service operation in certain spectrum bands that have no primary non-flexible use, legacy incumbents. And right now, as per my understanding, this is providing, this is authorizing for providing such services in limited areas, in far off, like some islands or far off areas, just because it is the beginning. And they have also identified certain bands for provision of these services. So as per the literature, these trials are at different stages of providing services. Like Link is partnering with various mobile network operators around the world to offer services. AST Mobile, AST Space Mobile, they are working with AT&T and Verizon in 850 megahertz low band spectrum to provide services. Starlink SpaceX is working with T-Mobile to offer this service in network. So trials are going on, and the technology is also evolving. So this shows just an schematic how the services will be provided, like satellite network. Just like it will be having a base station. It will act as a base station, just like a base station is mounted on it. And then we have got our ground network and hub station that will be connected, and the users through their mobile phone, which will be having satellite connectivity enablement. They're connecting to the satellite, and then through ground network, the calls will be routed to the mobile network, and then the communication will take place. There are various challenges like NGSO. The speed is very high of the satellites, and then timing, latency, Doppler effect, synchronization. So all these technological challenges are there. Let us see what means when we will having this type of fully SCS commercial services. Now, one of the important segments is the IoT ecosystem. So I will briefly discuss M2M IoT ecosystem, because in far off places, in forest, sea, and for monitoring, M2M and IoT systems are very important. Their sensors can provide a lot of information, and that is a very good input, as well as for taking corrective action also. So this shows the various layers and the connectivity layer of this M2M IoT service provisioning is related to to Telecom. So we have got a very stable and liberal framework for providing M2M services. And also for SATCOM services, there have been many reforms. So DOT issues permission for providing M2M services through registration, authentication, licensing. Various provisions are there, like M2M service authorization under unified licensing. And then this is basically an all-encompassing authorization. Then M2M service virtual network operators, they can use the network of M2M service authorization. Then M2M service registration, they are dependent for backhaul and telecom facilities on telecom service provider. And then WPLAN, WLAN, WPAN connectivity provider for connectivity among devices using only unlicensed structure. So these are the various enablement under the DOT regulatory framework. Then what are the steps for boosting M2M IoT-based communication services? So the scope of the satellite-based communication license, like commercial VSAT CUG, has been enhanced to enable satellite-based M2M IoT services. And VSAT terminal may be used to aggregate the traffic from M2M IoT devices, as long as the CUG nature of the network is not violated. So M2M devices used in any architecture like direct to satellite or in aggregate mode, it is not treated as VSAT for the purpose of levy of license fee. Then the enablement paves the way for introduction of satellite-based IoT devices in various sectors. And the changes are, it is hoped that these changes will help in the growth of the IoT M2M application ecosystem. So what is the IoT market report? So as per a report on global IoT market, the number of global satellite IoT subscribers reached 5 million in 2021. And only 2% of the global satellite connectivity market relates to satellite IoT connectivity revenues. But the low Earth orbit satellites, I think they will give boost to this sector. And the growth is likely to be $1 billion by 2026, as per this report's estimate. And it is estimated that 1 trillion IoT devices will be in the network by 2031 globally. So this is the global scenario for IoT as well as for provisioning of SATCOM services to IoT. And when we come to Indian market size, so as per a report in 2020, the IoT market size in India was around $5.6 billion US. And it is estimated that the market will reach around $10.2 billion US in 2024. So as this IoT market is going to increase in size hugely, so let us hope that IoT through satellite will also be having a very good growth over this period. So this is about my presentation, in which I have tried to discuss various regulatory framework reforms and the potential and other issues and the vision of the government of India about the SATCOM sector, how what is the vision of the growth and other things. So about the other issues, now we can have a discussion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for this enlightening session. Now we can have our Q&A. So we can start with the Q&A. Sir, can you hear me?
Read out the question.
So the first question is, with flip to make in India and Indian startup and Indian industry, what priorities specific provisions exist for startups and Indian space industry? Are there any special provisions in pipeline?
Startup is already promoted by the Department of Telecom, and under the preference to make in India also, Satcom equipment are listed. So though I'm not specifically aware of the any provisions, but I think the provisions of the promoting startup, they also includes the startup in the satellite space sector also. So I think DOT website may be checked, and I will also check about the latest provisions in this regard. Thank you.
And the follow up on that was, if not, we must consider giving them a priority over foreign players and promoting the Indian industry. Your view on that?
Yeah. So that is a very good suggestion, and I think that the suggestion is noted, and I will pass on to the relevant division of the department.
Thank you.
So next question, when can we expect approvals for in-flight services within India? You also touched upon GSM devices and direct-to-device internet. Are all the stakeholders on board with that idea? Tata Nelco also claims they have a license for satellite communications. Any details on that? Does Satcom compete with traditional telecom companies or coexist and grows the market connectivity? This is by Varun.
So may I respond now? Yeah. So as of now, the existing license framework is already there, and IFMC licenses or registration, they have already been issued to, I think, 23 agencies. So this is already, means the DOT has already issued registration for this purpose, and they can provide the services subject to the conditions, maybe security conditions and other conditions. So as far as the DOT is concerned, already registrations have also been issued. So I do not think there is any issue about providing the permission in this regard. Now, as regards the new licensing framework, so the new licenses or the authorization will be issued because as per the TRI Act, DOT consults the TRI, and based on the TRI recommendation, DOT comes out with the licensing framework. So after the receipt of the TRI recommendation on the new services like ground station as a service or providing services outside India or supplemental coverage service. So after the TRI recommendations are received, DOT will work on them and will come out within appropriate frame.
Right. So the next question is from Praveen Adhikari. In the context of satellite communication networks that utilize foreign satellite constellations, what components or products can Indian companies contribute? Are there any limitations or restrictions that prevent Indian entities from participating in all aspects of the satellite communication network, including providing components, products, or even launching their own satellites?
As far as satellites are concerned, satellites are handled by the Department of Space. So it will not be appropriate for me to comment on that. But as far as ground stations are concerned, then for ground stations, the DOT rules are already there for for sourcing from trustworthy sources, and all these things are there. I do not think there is any specific provision, but the domestic industry is already being promoted for manufacturing and under preference to make in India. And because the regulatory framework is dynamic, so any new provisions may also be initiated by the industry, and then in consultation with the industry, DOT may take a view on it. And as you are already aware, that Honorable Minister has constituted the Audit Advisory Committee on various subject matters, and the ministry is already consulting them. So all such suggestions are welcome, and then any new initiatives may also be taken by the department as part of ease of doing it.
So this question is, can VSAT designed for geostationary orbit satellite communication networks be effectively used in LEO satellite communication systems?
Pardon? I could not get the question. Please repeat.
So I'll repeat. Can VSATs designed for geostationary Earth orbit satellite communication networks be effectively used in LEO satellite communication systems?
I think this depends on the compatibility technology, but I think it seems to be difficult because in LEO satellites, the satellite has to be continuously tracked, because one satellite is taking another satellite's place. So this should have some kind of tracking mechanism also. The VSAT should have tracking mechanism. And so it seems to be difficult to me. I think as of now, it seems to be doesn't seems to be technically feasible. But in the future, yes, there may be such VSATs that are compatible with both. But at least I'm not aware of such kind of VSATs.
Noted, sir. So next question is, as DOT is a major enabler in enhancing India's space economy, what is DOT planning to do inspire confidence and promote ease of doing business for the Indian space industry so we can achieve our decadal vision by 2033?
Yeah, so as we already know that about 2 years back, major reforms were carried out in the telecom sector, which is SATCOM sector. And now we are again, with the coming of the new act, we are again sending reference to try on various licenses, including the SATCOM licenses, authorization, and network. So after we received their recommendation, and now we are working closely with the industry. The government already always works in closely with the industry. So after the consultation and after taking the views, I believe that not only new services will be enabled, and then in other licenses or authorization or service provisioning also, based on the industry inputs, we may be having a good enablement. But right now, because things are in the process, so let us see what happens. But being a dynamic licensing framework in India, let us hope that we will be able to achieve our decadal vision targets, and rather we should be able to surpass them by having a very liberal, dynamic, and stable licensing framework.
Right. So one final comment from Krishna sir. InSpace now being the single window agency for authorization of space activities. However, for spectrum, the industry has to approach DOT separately. It is requested that DOT can station data in space so that all in space are under one roof, including grant of frequency, allotment, etc. Your views on that, sir?
Yeah. So actually, management of spectrum is with the Department of Telecom, because spectrum is not related to SATCOM services. It is for the entire gamut of services, whether remote sensing are there or mobile are there or walkie-talkie is there. So the spectrum management, as per the Government of India's business allocation rules, Department of Telecom is the nodal agency for spectrum management, and WPC being a part of the DUT management. So InSpace is for the space object and not for spectrum management. So as of now, means because the spectrum is not related, and then there is coordination is also required between mobile services, IMT, and then SATCOM services. So if just hypothetically, if we go by your suggestion, and then spectrum management for SATCOM services is suppose done by ISpA, then I think it will be very difficult to have coordination, because spectrum management will be dealt with by the two agencies, which doesn't seem to be a good proposition. So spectrum management is done by the DOT, that is the DOT's job. And space segment, space objects, they are dealt with by the Department of Space, in space, all these agencies. So as of now, this is the framework, and it appears to be very logical because spectrum is used by all services, including SATCOM services.
Right, so we have raised hands from Christian. So can we? So you, Christian, sir, you may speak.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, now
We can hear you.
Okay. Now, my point was not to hand over the spectrum issue to from DOT to InSpace, but to have a rep of DOT InSpace to coordinate backend with DOT.
So if you could introduce yourself, sir.
This is a very major policy issue, and such things are decided at the cabinet level. So it will not be appropriate for me to comment, but I have given just a view which from the spectrum management point of view.
I don't disagree with you. My point is, you having a rep there, वो आपके साथ ही काम करेगा पीछे with DOT, but we don't have to approach DOT separately. So single window concept is maintained. That's all.
Yeah. So
not interfering with the work of DOT, and no rules of business are not going to get affected.
Yeah. So that's what I am responding to. That as of now, these are very major policy issues, and such decisions are taken at the highest level. So if there is any such suggestion, then I think TRI will also be having its consultation on spectrum from NGSO, GSO and NGSO shortly, because DOT has also approached them for spectrum assignment terms and conditions for NGSO and GSO. So if the industry can give their views in the consultation, and then whatever policy decisions are taken at the highest level, so only then such things can be resolved and considered. So as far as the view is concerned, that there should be a single agency is concerned, whatever the provision is right now, that is for a single agency to manage the spectrum resource. And that right now appears to me to be very logical.
Thank you.
Right. So there's a question which I think you partially have already answered, but will satellite communication system complement or replace existing terrestrial wireless infrastructure on a large scale? What are the potential cost difference between the two technologies today?
Yeah. So means this is a question or a suggestion? Means I just could not get your question.
So it's a question.
So what's the question? Means what is exactly the question? You have mentioned
that. Yeah. So the question is: will satellite communications complement or replace existing terrestrial infrastructure?
Yeah. So that's
what
the
are the potential
question.
Differences between the two?
Yeah. So that's the question I have. I means nobody knows. This is just like crystal glazing that I have mentioned, because evolution of technology is a continuous process, and I have mentioned that how mobile technology has surpassed the fixed landline. So it will depend, means how the industry comes out, how the spectrum is available. Means it will depend on the confluence of various factors. So nobody knows, and whether so much bandwidth will be available, because right now handset is working in the L and S bands, and very limited bandwidth is available. So for providing high-speed internet, I think right now it is difficult to access high-speed internet through handsets world over. very limited data capacity is available. So many things are there, but the technology, nobody knows which modulation or very high level of modulation techniques may be available in the future. And then other new things may also emerge. So it will depend on so many things. But I believe that nothing is impossible technologically, because who had imagined 50 years back or 100 years back that man would reach this, that our satellites or we will reach moon, our rovers or our landing vehicles will reach moon. So all this, the future is means I am very optimistic about the future, and I hope that such things are possible in the foreseeable future. But it will depend on the evolution of the technology, and also along with so many associated factors. But nobody knows when it will be. That I think nobody can predict.
Right. So the next question is from Ritika Bansal. Is the government looking at easing FDI restrictions for entities that aim to provide satellite communications in India, such that foreign investment here is allowed up to 100% through automatic route in line with the FDI limit for telecom sector, or foreign investment will be governed according to the new FDI rules for space sectors for such entities?
Yeah, so as far as uh, telecom sector is concerned, like ground stations and all other things, which fall under the domain of telecom sector. As per the FDI policy, because they are within the domain of telecom, so 100% is allowed. But when it comes to space, then the relevant limits have also been issued for different segments, like for rockets, launch vehicles, and for components or for satellite thing. So the relevant limits will be applicable. And in case of any kind of confusion or overlapping, then we can seek the opinion of the DPIIT in this regard, because that is the nodal agency. So if there is any kind of any such issue, then that may be forwarded to the to our department, and then we can seek a clarification if required.
Right. The next question is from Mr. Srinivas Durvasala. He requests clarity on the CubeSat registration process with ITU and frequency allocation.
Actually, registration process means I think the process is already applicable to all satellites. However, because this is the issue that is especially dealt with by the WPC wing of our department. Means I think I do not have the relevant knowledge on this aspect, because I am dealing with SATCOM licensing issue and promotional issues, whereas ITU filing and all such issues are dealt with the WPC, and this is a very specialized area, radio regulation and so many other things are required. If they have any issue, they can forward me their query, and I can find out from WPC.
On this, we will have a talk from somebody in the WPC regarding the ITU filing. Okay, so like very rightly as said by Mr. Agarwal, it is a very complex process and it is handled by a separate department in the Department of Telecommunication. We are reaching out to them that they can clarify on all aspects of this, because it's a gray area for many of us in India.
Thanks. So the next question is from Surendra Babu. Satellite communication data rate is too small. Today, all the applications are bandwidth hungry. How satellite communication is going to support high data rates?
Just can you please repeat, because the voice was not very
deliberate.
So I'll repeat again. The question is from Mr. Surendra Babu. The question is, SATCOM data rate is too small today. All the applications are bandwidth hungry. How satellite communication is going to support high data rates?
Yeah, so that's what I mentioned, means that is exactly I mentioned just now, that right now through handset in L and S bands, because the ecosystem for handset in MSS is available only in L and S band. Now there is very limited bandwidth available, which is practically for voice services and for very limited SMS or data services, very low data rate. So now, when the handsets are available in high frequency bands, when the ecosystem evolves in high frequency bands, say in KU band or KA band or in other bands, so I think we will be having huge bandwidth. But how it will be there, because the attenuation, signal attenuation is high. But the LEO MEO satellites, they are not at a very high altitude. And the technology is also evolving continuously. So right now it seems to be difficult. Right now it seems to be difficult, and it appears that the MSS service practically supports voice only with low data rate, very low data. However, technology is continuously evolving, and then I think in the future, I think just like mobile services have got very high data rate, hundreds of Mbps is available through IMT now, and 6G is coming in 2030 or even earlier than that. So we are talking about gigabits. And in 2G, hardly there was any data service available. So technology is continuously evolving, and going by the IMT analogy, I am very hopeful that we will be able to overcome all these technological barriers. So high modulation, and then other kind of corrective measures or enabling measures like ecosystem development, handset in high frequencies. So all these things will enable. But yes, right now it seems to be difficult. That is why there is a question mark as to whether it will only complement, supplement, or whether it can become the main service, just like mobile service.
Right. So there's a question from Ms. Harshita. She's asking for IARU, that is International Amateur Radio Union Coordination, whom to approach in India. Is it ISpA or DOT?
Actually, I'm not dealing with amateur services, but WPC deals with them. So they can they can send their query to me, and if they want, I can find out through WPC.
Right. So the next question is from Mr. Vikas Singh. As a regulatory body, while allowing a foreign player, what are the regulatory provisions with respect to data privacy and security, as this will have security implications when used by defense?
And last, what is the last word? Can you please repeat?
Yes.
Data privacy.
So as a regulatory body, while allowing a foreign player, what are the regulatory provisions with respect to data privacy and security, as this will have security implications when used by defense?
Yeah, so when we allow foreign players, right now, we are not allowing foreign players to provide services outside India. That way, means international services, means even national players or no other company is allowed. But once they are allowed, then relevant and suitable measures will be in place. Like right now, we are having many provisions in our license and authorization for security purpose. That includes data security also. So these will be there. Right now we have ground station. Any SATCOM traffic can be routed through ground station, which are established in India, so that we have got a total control over this traffic, and the law enforcement agencies can means interception is also possible through law enforcement agencies if it is required, and it can be least limit is possible. So when the market is opened up to the foreign players, suppose, then the appropriate provisions will be in place. And right now also, I think Ministry of IT, MeitY provisions are there about the data security and privacy. which have to be followed. Then DOT provisions are also there about in this regard in the licensing process. Listening and all these very good and effective provisions are already embedded in the authorizations of DOT. So similar to that, whenever a new service will be authorized, such relevant provision will also be part of these authorizations.
Right, sir. So one of the final questions, ISpA has given authorization to 3 companies for GASS services. When is DOT expected to give them licenses to start operations?
Yeah, so already TRI is sealed of the matter. A reference has been sent to them, and as per the Government of India Act, that is TRI Act, TRI is consulted, and their recommendations are sought whenever any new service or on any new service or new license. Now, as already mentioned in my presentation, GSAS or Ground Station as a Service, this is a new activity that is being taken up in India. Earlier, there was no service provider. So after we receive the TRI recommendation, DOT will work on that, and then the necessary framework will be released. So yes, it is not it will take some time because the TRI recommendations are awaited.
Right. So there are no more questions, and I think we are almost in time. So would you like to say some parting words?
I would just end by once again thanking Shri Arun Agarwal ji for an exhaustive insight into what are the existing regulations for SATCOM in the Department of Telecommunication. And also, I'm most thankful to him that he has also, with data, tried to look at what are the SATCOM services, how will they be in the future. To an extent, answer the question is, will this be a complementary service or will it replace terrestrial communication, which is unlikely in the near future. And more importantly, into all aspects of what is happening in the domain of SATCOM. We are very thankful to you, and to the all the audience, my request would be if there are any other questions which you think of or anything we have to approach Mr. Arun Agarwal ji in the future, we will look forward to doing that. And of course, issues of ITU filing, which is very important for the industry and which many of us are not very knowledgeable about, we will look for an expert to give the next expert talk on that. But once again, Shri Arun Agarwal ji, my thanks on behalf of all of us in the industry here for you taking out time and giving this very exhaustive and comprehensive presentation and then answering many of our queries. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ISpA, and thank you all the participants. Thank you once.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, we end our webinar. Hope to see you soon the next step. Thank you.
Namaskar.
And